Hey guys, welcome back to another GCSE Maths video. This time, or in this series of videos, we're actually going to go through how you'd problem solve for very tricky questions. So I've done most of the topics, or at least most of the tricky topics in GCSE, so I've gone through those as like a teaching element, but the part that most students struggle with, especially on the higher paper, although on the foundation paper as well, is problem solving. So, this question is tangents to circles. It's a grade 9 topic, but some students, they can't problem solve that well with them because their teachers maybe haven't gone through all of the possible questions, or maybe they don't fully understand the topic. So the idea behind these next few videos, and I say few, it's probably going to be like 10 to 15, is to go through some really hard questions and go through the problem solving elements about it. So I want to tell you exactly how I would approach it, and that will help you answer not just questions like this, but every single question in maths, because problem solving skills are separate to math skills, and that's something that I really want to kind of hammer home. So without further ado, let's just jump straight into it. This is a 4-mark question, and we have L is a tangent to the circle x squared plus y squared is 45 at the point negative 3 and 6. L crosses the x-axis at point P. Work out the coordinates of P. Now I'm going to draw a diagram because maths is extremely visual. It doesn't have to be, like a work of art or anything, but it's just so you can kind of visually see the information they've given you. And this is also extremely important if any of you want to do A-level maths or A-level science. Drawing things out really does help. So x squared plus y squared is 45, so that means actually we don't really know that. We know what the radius is, but it's not a very nice number, so there's no point in really doing it. Come on, autocorrect. Give me that thing. So, don't forget you're going to need to cut a few seconds off the end. So let's draw this out. Again, there we are. The actual radius doesn't really matter all that much because it's an ugly number, right? The square root of 45. But it says here, the line L is a tangent at the point minus 3 and 6. So it's going to be on the left-hand side. Let's say about here. I'm going to label that point as minus 3, 6. And we have a tangent. So I'm going to try and... That's reasonable. And it crosses the x-axis, so that's our horizontal axis at point P, and we need to work out the coordinates. Well, we already know what the y-coordinate is going to be. If it crosses the x-axis, it means the y-coordinate is indeed 0. So we already know one part of that, and that's perfect. So that's the first thing I would do, and that's part of the problem solving. The second thing that I would do is I would have a think about how you can work out the coordinates of a point. Well, one way is to work out the equation of the line, right? Because if we know the equation of the line, we can sub in one of the coordinates. Now this only works if you have one part of the coordinate. So in other words, if you have the x-coordinate, you can work out the y-coordinate. If you have the y-coordinate, you can work out the x-coordinate. That's why I labelled that we know the y-coordinate is 0. Because I can use the equation of a line because I know that y equals 0. So if I know the equation of the line, I can work out x. So I need to work out the equation of the tangent. Now from here, it really does depend on if you know the topic or not. If you know the topic, you'll be fine. If you don't know the topic, it's going to be a little bit trickier. So I'm going to go through it. When you want to work out the equation of a line, you have the expression or the equation y equals mx plus c. So you need a gradient and you need a coordinate. We have a coordinate, we have minus 3, 6, although it doesn't really look like a 6, I'll be honest with you. So all we need to do is work out the gradient. Well, now we're going to use our circle theorems. The radius of a circle will meet a tangent at 90 degrees. So in other words, if we work out the gradient of the radius, we can take the negative reciprocal to work out the gradient of the tangent line. So how do you work out the gradient of the radius? It's actually not too bad. What's the coordinates of the centre? It's 0, 0. Again, mine's a little bit off centre, but that's totally fine. So difference in y, 6 minus 0 over minus 3 minus 0. Again, the second coordinates is 0 because it's centred on the origin, right? So the centre of the circle is 0, 0. So that gives me negative 2, which means the gradient of the tangent, I'm going to call that mt, is the negative reciprocal. So I'm going to make it positive, so it's positive 2, then do 1 over. So our equation now is y equals a half x plus c. We're going to sub in the coordinate that we have, which is minus 3 and 6. So y is 6, x is minus 3. And we're going to rearrange that to find c because, again, Remember what the end goal is. When you're problem solving, keep thinking about what your end goal is. The end goal is to work out the coordinates of point P, but to get there, I've said I need to work out the equation of the tangent. So I don't know the equation of the tangent yet until I find out what plus c is. So, minus 3 over 2 plus c. Let's do this up here. So that means 6 plus 3 over 2. So 6 plus 1.5, that's 7.5, or 15 over 2 equals c. So we have y equals a half x plus 15 over 2. I know that the y coordinate is 0, so let's sub that in. 15 over 2 minus 15 over 2 from both sides. So we get minus 15 over 2 equals a half x. And all I'm going to do is times both sides by 2 to finally get the x coordinate. Minus 15 is equal to x. So that means the coordinates of P are minus 15 and 0, just like that. Now, I know I accidentally showed this a bit earlier in the video, and maybe I should have said earlier in the video that I was going to, with these questions, I'm also going to show you all of the mark schemes so you can see exactly where you get your marks. So, here is the mark scheme for this question. The answer, of course, is right, but here it says mark 1 for finding the gradient of the tangent. So that's right here. Now, if you notice, we did a fair amount of work before we even got one of the marks. So that is something that you have to consider. But again, these mark schemes are not designed to teach you how to do the question. They're designed to give an outline to examiners as to where the marks will come from. So again, these aren't even like the necessary, well, these aren't the necessary steps that you have. So they want to see you find the gradient of the tangent. They want to see you to find the equation of the tangent. So that's when we subbed in here y equals a half x plus c. Yeah, whoops. Things like that. So it's not telling you, hey, these are the steps you need for the question. It's not saying that you can't do anything before then. It's saying that you have to have these steps in order to get the marks. I know that sounds like the same thing, but I would recommend, if you were trying to read this question, I would assume that most people wouldn't know how to. If you didn't know how to do it before, this wouldn't really help you much. So do keep that in mind when you're going through those past papers. And it says here, for method to find x-axis intercept of tangent. Well, that's when we subbed in y equals 0. So again, drawing that out and explicitly writing it was useful. So all of this here, it's not for the examiner. You won't get any marks, but I would also argue that you get all of the marks because of it. Why? Because you've actually illustrated what you need to work out to yourself. So there is an obsession, especially with math students, how do I get the marks, how do I get the marks, how do I get the marks? And I understand why, but you also need to know how to actually get the answer, because that's how you get the marks. Again, that's something that you should consider. It's not saying do these 3 steps and that's it. And then, of course, A1 is, basically, if we get that. CAO, just so you know, stands for correct answer only. So if you got anything other than this, you cannot get the marks. Sometimes they give you a range, which is why they won't write CAO. So it might say between minus 15 and minus 14 is correct. Not in this case. But yeah, that is how you get all of those marks in the question. So what I want from you guys is, if you found this useful, let me know in the comments if you'd like to see more videos like this, where I kind of go through my exact thought process, breaking down these questions, and then showing you the mark scheme afterwards to show you where you get the marks. I think that would be very helpful, because again, it's problem solving skills that are lacking. And again, if you want to go into science or maths or anything like that in A level, problem solving is a huge part of it. In fact, I'd say it's more problem solving than doing the actual subject, which might sound a bit weird, but don't forget, the stuff we learn in maths is a tool to solve problems. It's not just a tool. But anyways, enough of me yapping. I'll let you get on with the rest of your revision, but again, please do let me know if you find this useful.